Between 1988 and 1996, AC Milan stood as the most dominant force in world football. Under the presidencies of Silvio Berlusconi, guided first by Arrigo Sacchi and then by Fabio Capello, the Rossoneri built two legendary sides, the Immortals and the Invincibles, that conquered Italy, Europe, and the world. This is the story of their glorious ascent and their sudden, dramatic collapse. Arrigo Sacchi inherited a talented squad and transformed it into a tactical masterpiece. He built a fearsome all-Italian back four of Mauro Tassotti, Alessandro Costacurta, Franco Baresi, and Paolo Maldini, one of the greatest defensive units in football history. But it was the Dutch trio that truly set this team apart on the world stage. Frank Rijkaard joined fellow Dutch internationals Ruud Gullit and Marco van Basten. Rijkaard was deployed in central midfield alongside Carlo Ancelotti, while Gullit and Van Basten formed a tantalizing attacking partnership of strength, guile, and technical mastery. Under Sacchi, Milan won 2 Intercontinental Cups, winning all the international finals they were involved in. The dominance was so complete that 3 Rossoneri players occupied the top 3 places in the Ballon d'Or in both 1988, Van Basten, Gullit, Rijkaard, and 1989, Van Basten, Baresi, Rijkaard. An unprecedented feat in the history of the award. The Milan team of 1988 to 1990 has since been voted the greatest club side of all time in a global poll conducted by World Soccer magazine. When Silvio Berlusconi took control of AC Milan in 1986, the club was in a state of deep crisis. Relegated due to a match-fixing scandal, they were rebuilding from the bottom. His first and most important decision was his choice of manager. Arrigo Sacchi had never played professional football at the top level, a fact his critics in the Italian press never tired of repeating. But Sacchi possessed something more valuable than a playing career, a revolutionary vision for the game. He believed in total collective organization. He demanded his team press as a single unit, defend as a wall, and attack with precision and intelligence. His training sessions were legendary for their intensity and detail. Players who had won everything found themselves working harder than ever before under his methods. Berlusconi backed his manager with extraordinary investment in the transfer market. The most significant arrivals came from the Netherlands. Ruud Gullit, powerful, graceful, dreadlocked, and utterly unplayable, was the first to sign. Marco van Basten followed, widely considered the most technically complete centre-forward in the history of the game. Frank Rijkaard completed the Dutch trio, a deep-lying midfielder of intelligence and authority who controlled matches from the center of the pitch as though conducting an orchestra. Together with the all-Italian back four already in place, Baresi, Costacurta, Maldini, Tassotti, the machine was assembled. Football would never be the same. Arrigo Sacchi had transformed a talented squad into a tactical masterpiece, one of the greatest defensive units in football history. Baresi, the sweeper and captain, read the game as though he had written the rules himself. Maldini, barely into his 20s, already played with the composure and intelligence of a man twice his age. Costacurta and Tassotti completed a unit of 4 that functioned as one. Frank Rijkaard was deployed in central midfield alongside Carlo Ancelotti, while Gullit and Van Basten formed a tantalizing attacking partnership of strength, guile, and technical mastery. Under Sacchi, Milan won 1 Scudetto, 2 European Cups, 2 European Super Cups, and 2 Intercontinental Cups, winning every single international final they entered. The dominance was so complete. Despite their extraordinary success in Europe, Milan had gone 3 years without winning the Italian league. For Berlusconi, domestic dominance was non-negotiable. In response, he replaced Sacchi with Fabio Capello, disciplined, cold, tactically ruthless, and reinvested heavily in the squad. In came goalkeeper Sebastiano Rossi, midfielder Zvonimir Boban, and attackers Daniele Massaro and Marco Simone. Capello's first season produced one of the most extraordinary achievements in the history of football. AC Milan played the entire 34-game, 1991 to 92, completely unbeaten. 22 wins and 12 draws, not a single defeat. Only the second team in Italian football history to achieve such a feat. The media, struggling for language worthy of what they had witnessed, coined the name that would define them forever: Gli Invincibili, the Invincibles. Milan reached the Champions League final for 3 consecutive years, cementing their status as the undisputed kings of European football. Their path, however, was not without heartbreak. 1993, lost to Marseille 1-0. The result was later shadowed by a match-fixing scandal involving Marseille president Bernard Tapie, who orchestrated a bribery scheme, paying Valenciennes players to lose a league match the week before the final, so his squad could prepare without distraction. When the truth emerged, Marseille was stripped of their Ligue 1 title and forcibly relegated to the second division. Milan's defeat, felt so bitterly at the time, had been stolen from them. 1994, defeated Barcelona 4-0. Widely considered one of the greatest single performances in the history of European club football. Capello's Rossoneri dismantled Johan Cruyff's dream team with a display of clinical brilliance and total domination that left the football world speechless. 1995, lost to Ajax 1-0. The 1994 Champions League final against Barcelona remains the crown jewel of the Invincibles era, and perhaps of the entire history of European club competition. Capello's team took apart Cruyff's celebrated side in what many regard as the finest team performance the Champions League has ever witnessed. Those who were in Athens that night still struggle to find adequate words. In 1995-96, with stars like Roberto Baggio, Marco Simone, and George Weah, who would claim the Ballon d'Or that very year, Milan won their 15th Italian championship. It felt like the beginning of a new era. It was, in truth, the closing of the old one. When Capello was lured away by Real Madrid in the summer of 1996, the dynasty crumbled with a speed that shocked even those who had seen it coming. Much of the iconic squad was aging or had already departed. Franco Baresi retired, ending the career of arguably the greatest defender who ever played the game. Van Basten had been gone for years, his brilliant career cruelly cut short in his prime by a devastating ankle injury that robbed football of one of its finest ever talents. Gullit and Rijkaard had moved on. The generation that had defined the era was dissolving, and the replacement Oscar Tavares was appointed as manager and lasted less than half a season before Sacchi was called back in December 1996, a return that underlined the club's desperation rather than its confidence. New signings such as Ibrahim Ba, Patrick Kluivert, and Christian Ziege all arrived with expectation and departed without delivering. The magic that had once made winning feel inevitable could not be conjured again. The results were catastrophic by Milan's lofty standards. The club finished 11th in 1996-97 and 10th in 1997-98, their worst back-to-back finishes since Berlusconi had taken over a decade earlier. The kings of Europe had become mid-table dwellers almost overnight. The Invincibles were gone,